everyone, welcome to our podcast. We are the Geek Philosophers. I'm Billy, and this is Jan over here.
Hello.
So today we're going to have a look at and see if we can't be somewhat entertaining when we're talking about the movie Jumanji. Realize this hit the theaters a little while.
Hang on. Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle.
Sorry, Jumanji.
You have to specify that, otherwise you're going to think it's the
Yes,
old Robin Williams one.
It's not the older one. This is the new one with The Rock in it. So
Dwayne Johnson.
He's The Rock, okay?
He's Dwayne
Everyone
Johnson.
will be like, who the hell is Dwayne Johnson? I don't
Everybody
know who this
that's,
nerd is.
Born
I don't know this
after
nerd.
1950 knows it's Dwayne Johnson.
So we're going to talk about Jumanji. Welcome to the jungle. You're gonna die. So I realize this movie came out a little while ago, but it's just kind of heading out on the DVD and Blu-ray. If you haven't seen this yet, make sure you shut us off right now and go and give it a look, and then come back and find us. Before I go any further, just wanted to mention, really would appreciate and do appreciate your comments and your feedback and reviews on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You find us. We're Geek Philosophers with an F. So this movie here, it's a bit like the old Jumanji, but mostly in title and the fact that there's a game involved is what it comes down to.
It's the same game.
And jungle is what it comes down to. So just to give a quick recap of this, not to put you on the spot this time, to give you a quick recap is that you see 4 students who don't really necessarily get along, know each other, they're aware of each other.
Very
they're
Breakfast Club-ish.
Very stereotypical different groups from high school. And they wind up in detention. They dig up this old board game that previously had absorbed a kid who turns out to be Nick Jonas into the game from before. So you'll wind up seeing him later on. And they wind up... Well, that's the weird thing about this, is that the game isn't just a board game. It morphs into a video game.
Yeah, I actually found that kind of cool.
Somehow.
They kept the way the movie starts is they actually dug up the original
board game, but no one plays board games.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then it kind of saw that and evolved into a video game. So I thought that was kind of a neat
smart
twist on it.
Who knows what the hell it is, but it's smart.
What's it going to evolve to next?
Oh my god.
That
VR?
that was like a Super Nintendo console that evolved to then. So
like the Switch version, maybe?
Motion capture.
Jumanji Switch. So these kids get they get kind of transported into the game. They get transported into the game and become characters that are very unlike their actual body types, personalities, everything like that, which we'll get into in a little bit. And video game world with everything, including a narrator, including all the baddies and typical environments and scenarios from a video game, and a goal in mind, which is to pretty much get this big green emerald and put it in
the Cyclops Jaguar.
Put it in Heal the Island, I guess. I guess it's a lot like Moana. Find the green gem and heal. In other words, since the Rock is involved.
It's got the Rock in it, yeah. You're welcome.
So essentially it's like an older kid's version of Moana.
Yep.
But so that's about the summary of it.
Yeah.
And then everything goes well, and the 4 of them become buddies in real life, and everything's happy, joy. So, give me a couple of things that you actually appreciated with this movie.
I actually came into this movie assuming it was a kids movie, so I kind of figured to be like, all right, this is going to be it's going to be okay, but not great. But I actually quite enjoyed it. There was a lot of really good. I found there was a lot of a good adult humor, but hidden so that kids wouldn't pick up on it. Like one that comes to mind is the boner scene there with Jack Black. They actually never go into it or see what's going on, but as an adult, you know exactly what it is, but kids would have no clue.
Tastefully done.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But there was actually a lot of really good jokes and good use of humor in that, so I actually really enjoyed it.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because this is actually a movie that I took my family to go see.
Okay.
So I've got a couple of young girls, 7 and 12, and we went to this, and the kids had seen the original Jumanji, so they knew what the board game was about.
Okay.
And we'd seen that at least a half dozen times at home, so they liked that movie. And this movie they thought was great, not just because they'd seen The Rock and other stuff before, like Tooth Fairy,
Mm-hmm.
that's which is a kids movie, but they actually really liked the fact that it wasn't too scary, but it was
and it wasn't
fun
too
enough.
kiddie.
It wasn't too kiddie, yeah. So I'd label it as a pretty good family movie is what it come down to.
Definitely, yeah.
Which, like you say, I wasn't expecting that, and I was actually fearing the other side of it. You thought you'd be getting into a kiddie movie.
Mm-hmm.
I actually thought bringing my 7-year-old to it that it'd be some of these parts might be a little rough on her, but she was fine and she thought it was great.
Well, like I said, probably because a lot of the humor was very tasteful. I find almost like with the Disney movies these days, where they always add the odd adult joke where the kids wouldn't pick up on it, but it's well done.
Well, it's a little more than that because there are some pretty risque parts as far as like my 12-year-old was catching all those.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like the albino rhinos? I felt things on my face.
Yes. I guess we'd already mentioned The Rock, but I find he's just one of those guys that everything he touches is decent. If not decent, really good.
He really nails those kinds of roles, I find, because you see him and you immediately think, the Scorpion King role, where it's just all, I'm a big, muscly, tough guy like Sylvester Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger, and all I do is serious action movies.
Yeah.
But I find he excels at these roles where he is kind of the big action guy, but he laughs at himself.
That's it.
And I find these are the roles he just knocks right out of the park.
That seems to be the new normal with a lot of these guys, though, eh?
Yep.
Like we mentioned John Cena before, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of the guys, like Justin Timberlake, I know he's not a big guy, but he's a guy that could be, let's call it a douche if you want, but he likes to make fun of himself, right? So this is a good part for The Rock to play and just seeing him afraid of stuff. As soon as he gets into the jungle, he's afraid of stuff.
Squirrels.
Yeah. So he was really good in this. And while we're talking about certain characters, you can't go Jack Black.
Oh man.
You can't go wrong with him. And the funny thing is, I don't know if you'd seen R.L. Stine Goosebumps.
No,
he was in Goosebumps, and I hadn't seen him in a whole lot aside from what's the Tropic Thunder.
Okay, yeah.
And he was okay in that, but he wasn't even close to the funniest in that, right?
Pigeonholed, I find, because Tropic Thunder, School of Rock, he kind of got pigeonholed into those loser roles, if you will, where it's kind of like, okay, this was fun when you were a teenager, but you're a middle-aged man now, like it's not cool anymore.
Yeah.
Those kind of roles where, he's always into the booze and the drugs and whatnot, I find he got pigeonholed into those kind of roles, so this was a real step outside. I don't know what Goosebumps was because I haven't seen that one.
He's just a bit of a straight man in it,
okay.
It comes down to. Yeah, he's a straight man. So just one of those things where I'd seen him, the last couple of things, he would just either wasn't the funniest or he was the straight man. And it was just one of those things where just the other, I'd say a couple of weeks ago, for the first time, believe it or not, we watched Tenacious D.
Okay.
And it was just one of those things where, we watched School of Rock with the kids too, about a half a year or so ago. And it was just one of those things where you're like, where's old Jack Black?
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, in this, he's not being that character,
exactly, the typical kind of loser,
but still just very Jack Blackish with what he's doing, right?
He's definitely not the straight man.
No. So, and you can't go wrong with, and although I wasn't sure about her, and I've never seen her in anything before, the girl that plays Ruby Roundhouse, to start off with, she was kind of just there. But once they get into her trying to sell the smolder and
oh my, that flirting scene, I was laughing. I was like, I had tears in my eyes there. Then when she finally clicks in, she's like, oh yeah, dance fighting. Yeah, that was a great scene. I love that one.
Yeah, so she turned out to be good in this.
She flirts about as well as I do, actually.
Do you? Right?
I do that lip bite and the hair flip, and it never works.
It doesn't work, so you may want to come up with some
I'm still single, everybody.
You may want to come up
surprisingly.
with some moves.
I need to work on my dance fighting.
Maybe that's what it is, because it was working okay for her. So yeah, I found, just speaking of these characters kind of being outside how you'd expect them to be, because a couple of them are quite pretty to look at, let's say. I find that's what really sells this movie, where if it was just the kids that didn't actually turn into these avatars,
if it was just them that showed up in the game,
or even if it was just, I know that it goes against the whole story, but if it was just The Rock and Jack Black and those guys, in
Yeah.
this just as a typical movie, whether it's a video game or not, and just being themselves
Yeah.
or these buff characters or something, it wouldn't have worked.
No, exactly.
The best was the fact that
That
they were trapped
layer that
inside
they
these
added,
avatars'
yeah.
bodies.
Because if you think back to the first movie, that it was complete opposite, right? The kids that were playing a game are the kids that actually stayed those characters throughout the entire movie. Like, it was happening to them.
Did you think those kids were going to show up in this movie somehow?
No.
Not at all.
No.
I don't mean in the jungle. Yeah, because it wouldn't have been in the jungle, but just somewhere.
Well, they did tie in the jungle, though. Did you catch that?
Yeah, Robin Williams is...
Alan Parrish was here, yeah. And I found that was a really cool tie-in because in the first movie, they never actually explain, like, you know that Robin Williams went into a jungle. You just assume it's in the game somewhere, and he lived there. Yeah. So that was kind of a really cool tie-in where in this movie, the jungle that they're in is that same jungle Alan Parrish from the first one was living in for 20-something years.
Yeah. The fact that these avatars are used in a typical World of Warcraft or any of those type of scenarios, it's neat because that's the one part of the video game aspect of it that plays up really nice. But also, I really like the part where lives remaining on their arms.
Oh, right.
And see, because that made for some funny parts too, because they'd start picking on each other and just push each other off a cliff and be like, "What, bro?" That, and just the other things where it brought a lot. For example, Kevin Hart was the bag guy,
the backpack guy.
Yeah, so that was his aptitude. Whereas you had the big buff guy, and it played in really nicely. So whereas I know I saw commercials for this beforehand, and Jumanji's a bit. I know it was never one of those big, huge blockbuster type movies, but it's a bit of a cult.
Yeah.
It's not. I wouldn't say it's got a following even, but it's just one of those things where
everybody's seen it. Like if you mention Jumanji, everybody knows exactly what you're talking about.
And with Robin Williams and everything, it's just one of those movies that you thought no one would mess with, right?
Yeah.
So when I saw this, I thought, Ghostbusters remake, you know, that type of right? Mm-hmm. And especially when they said video games, I thought, they're gonna butcher this. I love video games. I love Jumanji. They're gonna butcher this. So the video game aspect really played in well, especially when you first get into a video game, an actual video game when you're playing at home, you have someone explaining what's going on and everything. So they first get in here.
Nigel.
Is that his name?
Yeah.
He looked like a Nigel, right? But he pulls up in the Jeep and he's like the old explorer and jungle
one thing
explorer.
I was surprised they didn't do is, I don't know about you, but I'm awful with video games. Mm-hmm. I need a very detailed tutorial in every video game I play, and even some of them, if they're too complicated, I can't get out of the tutorial, like that Call of Duty game that I couldn't do it.
Yeah, so Call of Duty, you get out of the Jeep, and the sergeant tells you to crouch underneath a log.
He doesn't say crouch. He says grab a gun and come back.
Yeah.
And I looked everywhere for the gun. I threw all my grenades.
You've got a waist-high log and a button that says crouch.
No.
Yeah,
no. See, that game was silly, so I never played Call of Duty 4.
There's only been 37 of them, so you missed out on 37 games because you couldn't crouch.
I'm not a croucher. What was I getting at? Oh, yeah, so big they're dropped into the jungle, and they have no idea what they're doing, what their moves are, or anything. So I kind of figured, I was happy to see Nigel show up and at least tell them, what the point of the game was.
Yeah. So you're a big Nigel fan.
I am a Nigel fan.
You're probably the only Nigel fan among
I need a
everybody.
Nigel in my everyday life.
Yeah, the British explorer following you around. You may not want to wear those pants with those shoes. So that's my British accent.
Good job.
Pretty bad.
Good job.
So we went through the characters, and I don't know if you noticed, but I mentioned that I actually enjoyed 3 of them. I didn't mention Kevin Hart. I'm not a big Kevin Hart fan.
Neither.
And I'm just not much for that really hyper neurotic Charlie Day, that type of thing. Yeah. I find it funny for a bit. And the same thing with Charlie Day. Same thing with Chris Tucker.
Yes.
Chris Tucker from
Martin Lawrence, I found with with
just that type, and I find it's good for a little bit, but you can't come and tell me that Kevin Hart, maybe after the first 10 minutes that he was in there, that every one of his jokes just fell flat.
Especially compared to the other ones. The other ones were all like very spot on, and his were kind of just old.
They were always about the same thing
Yeah.
too. Always about his freaking backpack,
Yeah,
right?
and his size. I'm a big guy in real life. Why am I so small?
Yeah. He was the flattest of them
Yeah.
all, and I don't think it has to do with his character in the movie. I think it's just him. I just get tired of that shtick, right?
Yeah.
And so that's unfortunate.
See, I found for speaking of characters we didn't really enjoy, the main bad guy.
Yeah.
So, and I'm a little biased because Bobby Cannavale, I've only ever seen him in one thing, and that was Will and Grace, where he plays Will's gay cop boyfriend, and he's obsessed with shopping for gloves. Like, that's his big thing, is glove.
Yeah.
So seeing him in this kind of role, I was a little bit biased. I'm like, I'm not really buying it.
Yeah.
But I found they tried to make him look so evil and, you know, like such a big bad guy. And they're building this up throughout the entire movie. And I finally got to the end, and he did nothing.
Yeah, he didn't
like,
do
he
much.
didn't. It kind of just fell flat for me. I was just like,
And he's got some kind of supernatural powers too, where
Yes.
he has bugs crawling out of
oh,
him.
that was disgusting. Okay, I did not need to see the centipede come out of it or go into his ear. No. I have a thing
My
with-
7-year-old was good with that, so you gotta man up.
I
a
was
little
good
bit.
with the scorpion coming out of his mouth, but
Yeah.
the centipede into the ear, no thanks.
So we could talk about that because I found while those looked okay, I found some of and once again, just like some of our other podcasts, I harp on the CG.
Yeah.
Or if you're gonna do CG, and we already talked about how animals are tough to do and everything. So
The Jaguars.
yeah, the Jaguars were rough, but the good news, they're in a video game.
Yeah.
So you can't expect perfect, cinema-like graphics from a video game. So I'm willing to give it a pass on that at least.
Yeah.
Not much. It's still CG I'm watching with 3D glasses on, so not much of a pass. Now, was it me or did you find this one? It was so colorful and so the fact that I guess once they got down to one life, it became a little more suspenseful, right? But
Yeah.
when they had 4 lives each or 3 or 4 lives each to start off with, it was fun to watch and entertaining and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But didn't you find that compared to the original Jumanji, where these kids were in peril, the little guy's floating down the river and
monkey tail.
with his monkey tail, but just you felt, I'm not gonna say, I want to say scared, but not scared, but on the edge of your seat for these kids, and not really for Robin Williams because he's been in the bush forever, so he can handle his own. But just one of those things where you felt concerned for those kids. But this one here, I didn't feel that. I felt like everything was going to be rosy at the end. And you knew the kids weren't going to die in Jumanji. No. Come on. Maybe turned into monkeys. But just one of those things where I never felt that kind of, oh my God, it's that feeling when everything's taking over the whole town and the hunters. So I never had that suspense from this new movie, let's say.
When you play a video game, do you have that suspense for your character?
Heck yeah. Yes, I'm physically tormented.
I don't, because I can only cheat. I only get through video games by cheating, so I'm always on God mode.
You've got crouch on cheat, cheat for crouching. So one of my favorite parts of this, and surprisingly, so my kids, they're the type that turn away whenever they see even like Disney princesses kissing the prince at the end of the movie.
Right.
Okay, kissing is bad as far as the kids are concerned. They actually thought that Rock and Ruby Roundhouse kiss, where they're just an awkward mess, was probably they thought it was the funniest.
That's not how you're supposed to kiss?
No, you need more practice, I think. But they thought that was the funniest part in the whole movie.
Oh,
and
really?
It was just, you know what it reminded me of it was a Dumb and Dumber when
it looked like he's
Lloyd
trying to swallow Mary there.
Yeah, that's what it reminded me of. But just so funny to see The Rock and the gal that plays Ruby Roundhouse.
Yeah.
Just so awkward, and it was awesome.
You don't see that. I've seen it like you said in Dumb and Dumber. I was thinking there's something about Mary, but no, Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
And I've only ever seen that in one other movie, and I think it was like one of those slapstick comedy ones, not another teen movie.
Yeah.
But that they do that. They have this big romantic scene, and finally the two kind of main characters get together and they kiss. And it's Chris Evans and I forget the girls' names, but they totally just miss each other, and then it's super awkward.
Yeah.
So great use of humor, and I find you don't see that enough. Mm-hmm. You see too much of the we're going in for a kiss, and it's the big dramatic and the lights and the music and all of that. It's old.
Yeah.
So it's refreshing to see something like this where they kind of laugh at that
Well,
moment.
because they in real life
Well,
they probably
exactly.
haven't kissed a whole lot.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it was a nice touch, and I found it was one of the funnier parts of the whole flick for me.
I actually thought they were gonna blur it out or pixel it out, like what they do in kids games. Whenever you do I don't know if you ever played The Sims.
Yeah.
Wherever you hop in the shower or something, it's all pixelated so that they block it. So I thought they were gonna do that to their faces.
Yeah, they didn't really go there with any censoring
No.
and that type of thing. I have found that Welcome to the Jungle is obviously, as we pointed out before, and you knew on the commercials for this movie that Guns N' Roses' Welcome from the Jungle plays during the commercial.
Right.
Did you think it was going to be for the big last battle scene? They only
Yes.
played it. They only played it for the end credits, I believe, right?
Just the end credits.
Why didn't they play it during when they're climbing up that tower? And
Yeah, I'm not sure.
it was perfect for that.
Yeah,
It was
because
perfect.
if you think about Megamind, that's
Yeah.
exactly the song that they used for the big epic entrance, the last battle. And
Yeah.
I find it's just such a classic song, and it kind of gets you that pumped up feeling for, okay, this is going to be kind of the last battle.
Yeah.
So unfortunately they didn't use it, but
Credit
oh well.
music.
Yeah.
Slash would just be angry.
I was going to say rolling in his grave, but I don't think he's dead.
He's not dead yet. No, he's actually pretty good. I think that's the end of my notes for this one here.
Yeah. The only other thing I had is, I don't know, have you ever gotten detention?
Lots.
Lots?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. When you get to detention, do the teachers ever give you this life-altering speech of how do you turn your life around? Or is it just sit down, be quiet, and either do your homework or...
Usually just be quiet
Yeah,
and write lines.
same thing. Well, I got in detention once in my entire life because I'm a good student.
Well,
but I find with these movies, anytime there's detention, they did the same thing here. The teacher giving the big, inspiring, motivational speech. I'm thinking, okay, no, this never happens. Let's get real here.
You didn't have very good teachers, that's why.
They didn't care about my future.
Well, for that, I guess on that topic, isn't that why they went up in that storage room? Is because they put them to work?
Yeah.
Yeah, detention, they don't put you to work.
No,
like
exactly.
That.
It's
They'll
you
make
sit
you
in the class and be quiet.
Yeah, they might get you to do some extra work or something,
Yeah.
but they won't go clean it. Because that'd be cool. Imagine, just go clean some room full of Jumanji games.
Detention in Harry Potter world.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Don't ever go into this forbidden forest unless you skip class. Then you're gonna go there at night when it's the most dangerous.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'd be in.
I'd stop doing bad things if that was detention.
Oh, but that's the bush that's full of spiders, though, right?
Yep.
Yeah, not me. But
there's also unicorns.
That's the only time I'd be a good student, is if I'm actually in Harry Potter's world, just because of fear of the spiders.
Yeah, I got.
Okay,
that's
so
it for me.
Out of 5, what would you rate Jumanji? Welcome to the jungle.
I'm gonna give it 4 smoldering intense out of 5. Smoldering intense stares.
All right. I'm going to give it 3.5 awkward rock kisses out of 5. So, folks, we are the Geek Philosophers with an F, and you can find us pretty much any social media. We really recommend that you comment and like us and, follow us, because we'd really like to know what you're thinking of our stuff out there. We look forward to you tuning in next week, and we'll have new material each and every week. Thanks for listening.
Boom.